Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 133 of Man and Machine, here with the PeakBot team and Mark Phillips from Harvested Financial. Happy Monday, everybody. Here in the Northeast, it's still not summer. I know it's June, but I'm in a coat in my office because I didn't, put the heat on in here, and it's cold. So
we're getting there, though.
We're getting there very slowly. How we doing, guys? Mark, how are you?
Oh, same deal up here. We just can't break through to summer yet. Whispers of it, but haven't fully broken out.
A lot of rain, a lot of wind. My dad, who, lives not too far on the lake, he's like, I've been robbed of May. I'm not happy. He's seasonally depressed, mad at everybody. Don't go around my dad until the weather's nice. But anyway, we got a full week ahead of us. Lot to talk about here on today's show. Of course, stocks in real life. Hey there, Doug. Waiting for that. We're going to review stocks in real life. We are going to learn a little something with we're still calling them newer segments. We're going to be diving into days of expiration for some of our bots and how we go about making our decisions when it comes to 0 DTE, 1 DTE, etc., and why we land where we do. We're going to talk about how our bots are performing. Our King Condor strategy has been hot as of late, so a lot of good stuff to discuss today. Fellas, is there anything I missed off of the agenda, or do we want to just get right into it?
I think we just get right on into it.
All right, let's do it. So, first off, how do we feel about this market? We can get into stocks in real life if we want to very quickly, but I feel like the three of us haven't collectively talked about the market in a little while. Mark, what's this market been doing to your mental as of late? How do you feel moving forward? And give us a high level.
Good time seeing closed out just another month now. We got 5 months into the year, and it's a curious market. I was just writing the monthly recap for some of my clients that we use the bots for, and S&P right now is sitting 4% below its all-time highs. VIX is just about 20. I think we're ticking over 20 this morning with market down a little bit, but that's kind of been the running long-term average over the last couple months. So you look at those headline figures, you look at the, contango back in the VIX structure, and you say, everything seems fine. Like, we're just another, May in another calendar year that roughly falls in with the bounds of what we'd expect. But personally, after seeing what happened in April and May, I have a hard time believing that VIX 20 is going to be around for long. I think there's definitely some, potential for bigger moves. Whether that comes this month, whether that just melts away, to be determined. Summer's always a different dynamic, but it still feels like something's looming large over this market, despite what some of these month-to-date, quarter-to-date, indicators are saying.
In other words, VIX at 20 is fake news. That's what you're trying to say.
It's pretty good news. It's derived from the most liquid options markets in the world and priced by trillions of dollars of capital every day. So I'm certainly not going to be the one that says that's wrong, but it does feel a little low given all the qualitative data points that have been just bombarding our senses.
How's pre-market looking? What are we looking like right now?
Futures are down like 40 this morning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Not too bad. I mean, I'd say more than you've been used to seeing if we were looking at this a year ago, but I'd say now it's pretty much expected, especially over the weekend. It's actually interesting. I remember before the whole Trump administration took office, I remember running a lot of back tests for some strategies, and I actually built a strategy called the Weekend Warrior, where I would just get into a put credit spread, let it run over the weekend. And over the past 4 years, like every single weekend, I mean, not every weekend, it had like a 93% win rate. And that's just not been the case for the past couple of months. So good thing we didn't actually turn that into a bot for everybody, because that particular strategy has been losing.
It's in the hopper for the next administration. It'll be ready when it's ready.
The weekend effect, I mean, I know we're not talking about this for our Learn Something, but the weekend effect is very interesting to price because you have such a long period when the market's closed and, calendar days are not the same as market days. And so like Friday 4:30 to Monday 9:30 is a tough window to price because most of the time nothing happens. Most of the time, there's plenty of good and interesting strategies that, take advantage of similar dynamics. But the tails on them can be big, and it's it ebbs and flows when that works. So the weekends are curious.
All right, question for you: if you had to make a choice, I don't even know if this makes sense, but to never again, you could never trade over, never hold a position over the weekend. Okay, long positions different. You prefer to trade over the weekend or not to, if you had the choice?
For short-term opportunistic stuff, I think I generally prefer to not hold something over the weekend.
Yeah.
But that depends, right? Like I think, like Ben was sort of suggesting, like historically, there's a bit more premium in that. But as with all like kind of premium collection strategies, or whether you're long or short, right? It's either managing the carry on the long side or protecting your tails on the short side. So it's the dynamic, I think, is more difficult to price than just your normal Tuesday to Wednesday overnight.
Okay. All right. Very cool. So kind of sense of the market, we'll take a look at some economic events and we'll do a little SPY analysis later in the show. But I think what we should do is we should get into our stocks in real life, our stock of the day, and go over it. We have some fun facts. We'll take a look at the market or at the chart if we've traded this. Let's do it. Ben, why don't you pull it up?
Cool.
Let me just say quickly, General Mills, horrible ticker. Terrible stock ticker. GIS, I would have never, I guess GM's taken. Okay. Yeah. But like, I don't even know where GIS comes from. I'm trying to actually look that up. Okay. We make food the world loves. I do agree with that, right? They're one of these humongous conglomerates when you look at all products that might be in your snack cabinet or whatever it might be. It feels as if almost half of them are going to be owned by General Mills, unless I'm like completely
You got some
off.
brands? You got some brands you could rattle off that we might recognize?
Let me see. While I'm doing that, why don't somebody, I need to know why it's GIS. All right, General Mills products. Here we go. 100 plus brands going right to the site. Oh my God, this is insane. I'm going to share a screen actually. All right. So here's General Mills website. Annie's. I just tried their mac and cheese the other day. Betty Crocker, Bisquick, Bugles, Chex cereals, Cheerios, Chex Mix, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Cocoa Puffs. This is my childhood. This is how I got fat. I'm blaming General Mills for my obesity. They own so many things. What are the other 2 or 3 huge conglomerates in the space that everything routes up to? General Mills, and what are the other big ones? I can't think right now.
Like food brands?
Yeah, Kellogg's, General Mills. What's a movie about all this?
We did Tyson last week.
Tyson's another. Yep.
They own a lot.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Kraft.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Kraft will have a bunch of names that you recognize.
Yeah,
Kraft Heinz. That's actually going to be next week's.
Oh wow. Okay.
I'm sensing a trend here.
All right.
I just like talking about food.
Before we get into the stock and the chart and anything, do we have any idea when they IPO'd? Any guesses?
I'm gonna guess the 50s.
Yeah, that's where I was. I'll go early. I think like 52.
Not early enough, guys. And I will go and double confirm, but I'm seeing 1928 here.
Wow.
General Mills IPO date, Friday, November 30th, 1928. Yeah. Wow.
What a year to list, huh? The next decade was probably pretty tough.
I was going to say, tough time to come out.
They made it. Can you just check when did GM IPO?
Okay.
Because if they IPO'd later than General Mills, then we've got a real problem.
Okay, well, this is saying 2010. Obviously, that's not correct. Right?
That technically is correct. The
Oh,
second
really?
time around they IPO'd in 2010.
Okay, let's see. When did GM first IPO? Yeah, I'm just getting the 2010 date. I don't know about 1916. Okay, so Ben, I think they were in the game.
So we're good.
In the game already.
We're good.
Okay, talk to me about General Mills. I personally don't think I've ever traded it. What about you guys?
I had to look it up. It's not a frequently traded stock. Not a lot of action here, but no, never come across my radar.
Okay, so when I'm looking at the chart here, and Ben may have a screen getting ready to be pulled up.
Yeah,
it's going dark mode.
It's a Monday morning screen right now.
Okay, so Ben's got what looks to be the dailies on for the last few years. And if we're talking trend as our friend here, since October of 24, end of September, we've been bearish. In a pretty decent channel too. I mean, there was some volatility and some fluctuation February through March of this year, as most other stocks saw as well. A little bit of a bull run there, but yeah, tough days really for General Mills. I'm curious to know if this finds its way on our trend spread watch list. Ben, I would imagine that with our new updates to the watch list, I don't think it's getting its way on there. Probably not enough volume, probably not enough premium.
Yeah.
But I'd like to look, none of us have traded this, right? Maybe I think before we go into Kraft Heinz next week, we find out if any of us have traded or if it's on a bot or a watch list of ours. But what do we say about trying to, not financial advice, come up with a trade idea, trying to look at this chart? I think Ben's probably already on top of that.
I was just seeing if I ever traded it. I have not.
All right.
I was trying to look at the COVID effect too, and
nothing crazy. It doesn't seem like.
I mean, didn't really get. So if you're looking for a pandemic-proof ticker, here you go.
So what's interesting, Ben, click on all time on the chart. We're reaching what may be here. I see this level around $54 has been, we've seen some consolidation around here in the past. Now, years ago, okay, we're talking 2016, 2020 to 2021, but it did kind of like level off at this $53, $54 level. And now it's kind of reapproaching that. So I think it's traded as high as $82, $83 back in May of 23. But I think we're coming up on maybe like a little bit of support. I'm not sure, but they've had a lot of red months. It looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 out of the last 8 months have been bearish. Not pretty. We have earnings coming up, or no, earnings had just passed. Yeah, I don't know, guys. I got to be honest with you. I don't have too much to say about General Mills right now. What about you guys?
You could earn a dividend.
Okay, what are they paying? Is it anything nice?
Like 60 cents.
So I'm seeing, from a technical standpoint, we're bearish. Analyst ratings, I'm seeing a relatively neutral forecast. If you were to click on that, Ben, there's more upside than downside, at least as far as the analysts are concerned. 17 of them are just in a hold right now out of 24 analysts.
That's more than you usually see, at least
way more
from what I've seen on this analyst rating tool on TradingView.
Couldn't agree more. Very rarely do we normally skews toward the buy or the sell. I mean, listen, for me, not financial advice, I think we're kind of getting close to like some type of breakthrough. They can either crash through this $54 level pre-market, they're down about 20 cents. Yeah, I mean, if the trend is our friend here, I'm thinking we can see this continued movement down to even like the mid 40s or something, but I'm no advisor. Mark, any general thoughts just looking at this chart?
Not a stock I want to own.
Okay, good.
I mean, I don't generally like subscribe to, technical analysis, or I'm not even that good of a stock picker, but that trend does not look particularly inviting.
Yeah, no, I agree. Doug asking how much of their manufacturing is taking place in the U.S. and their effect on these tariffs. Not sure. But one I'm probably keeping out of the bag here for at least a little while.
All right.
So yeah, I mean,
you had gun to your head. You have to make a trade.
Okay.
On general,
right.
What is it? What's it gonna be?
So here, let me tell you right now. Pull up the. I'm gonna go weekly. I'm gonna do. If I had to do it, I'm gonna do like almost like a trend spread trade. I'm gonna be bearish on it. I want to know what the premium is typing out for next week here. Why don't I just share my screen? Quickly?
Share your screen.
We're going to come here. We're going to go to chains. We're going to type in GIS. We're going to go to next week. Okay. Whoa.
Monthlies.
We're never talking about the stock again. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do with monthlies. But if we're talking expiring 620 and I'm bearish on it, I want to sell a call. I don't know, man. I think I'd want to. Jeez, I don't even.
Might as well sell out the money.
Yeah, seriously. I mean,
and these markets are a little bit wide too, which is tough to get involved.
Doug says, take a look at the options interest. It looks low.
Agreed. Yeah, the OI is. I don't even see.
So what's
maybe one or two lines have over 1,000. I guess June has a little bit more, but yeah, it's pretty thin.
If we were going at the money here. All right. Yeah, I mean, such a wide swing from a 50 cent. Oh, no. Yeah, you can earn $50 on this, $50 to $70 if you think it'll stay under 55 by 620. That 55. I mean, we're there. Yeah, I have no idea. My best trade on this would be not to trade it. Doug agrees.
We agree.
All right.
Are we done talking about this garbage?
We're done, and I'm going to say it live. Let's collectively be better about our stocks in real life if we want to do it. Let's make sure it's something at least on the trend spread watch list or the wheel watch list.
Trend spread watch list is narrow these days.
It's tight, and we could talk about that if we want. I mean, we eliminated anything with an expected value under 2 off of the list. So it used to be about 100. Sorry.
-2%, not 2%.
-2%. Sorry if I didn't say that. So there used to be 150 some odd results that you can find, trade ideas on the trend spread watch list. Now it's closer to 30 to 40. So very much trimmed down. But we can cover that further. And if there's questions on updates to the trend spread strategy, let us know, because we lowered the delta too. We're grabbing the 22 delta as opposed to the 30 delta now. Tighter spreads, higher statistical win rate on paper, and a tighter watch list. So let's get off of General Mills, guys. Let's get into some good stuff.
Done with General Mills.
Ooh.
Let's head on over to the bot shop, King Condor. King Condor has been crushing it. And Dillon, I think you've got some results as of late for the King Condor. Why don't we show the results now, and then we'll show them again after, because that's how good these results have been.
All right. So just this past week, I'm going to bring this on stage here in a second. Here's what we're working with, people. All right. So last week, King Condor took 2 trades. Now, one of the beautiful parts about this strategy is it's not going to trade if the volatility is out of whack. Okay. If the VIX is too high, if there's too much movement, if there's an FOMC day or other economic events scheduled, it's not going to trade, and you don't have to do anything about it. Okay. But we went 2 for 2 last week. I have the dates here. Let's break this down. So we had a trade going from the 27th, expiring the 28th. Okay, so Tuesday into Wednesday, a 1 DTE, $10 wide spread on SPX. Enters at 3:15 p.m. Okay, that's what this orange line here is. That's our entry. All right, and here's expiration on the end of the 28th. So you can see, truthfully, this is our window. We want to stay in between 59.50 and 58.70. 1 or 2 bars that we're seeing a little bit of movement, but for the most part, out of trouble the whole time, collected
Nice.
$325, which is a 32% ROI on one trade with a $10 spread. So money there. Ben, do we know why it didn't trade the next day? Was it I forget if it was scheduled or not.
I think, what was that?
It would have been a Wednesday. FOMC minutes?
I don't think we would have shut off for that. I think it might have been VIX. I think VIX
Could have been
might
VIX.
have gapped up too much overnight. But I'm even looking at the chart here, and I'm thinking why? Because the price, the SPX went up. Usually that has a negative impact on VIX, but maybe that wasn't the case last week.
There's a reason.
You
a
talk
valid
about it. I'll
reason
check
as to
the
why
chart.
it didn't trade.
I'll check the chart.
Depending upon what our put strike would have been, maybe could have been another winner. But as we can see, there was a lot of movement on a couple of these bars in between that time zone. And then let's move to the trade that expired on Friday. So this was entered on the 29th, Thursday. This blue line here, all right, expired Friday, end of day. So this one was a little bit more of a roller coaster for us, okay? Entered all day. And if we were looking at like the 5-minute bar here, I don't know exactly what, I think these are 30-minute bars. A lot of movement. We were not having a lot of fun right here, okay? We were about halfway through the day on Friday. In fact, I think we were live, and I jinxed us at least for a minute. I was like, hey, we couldn't be more out of the money. We couldn't be more in the middle of the road. Bang. Huge red bar. 2 big red bars. And I think we were even talking about it live. I was like, guys, do I get out, take my $170 win right now as opposed to $340? Thankfully, I stayed in it. We rebalanced, and I don't think we could have finished more in the middle. Another win for $340. So on the week, 2 for 2, made almost $700, okay, risking $2,000 on 2 $10 spreads. Overall ROI, 33.25% on the week, 2 bags. This is a great visual. I was proud of this one.
Nice. I like it. Love the wins. And this is the strategy that Mark is using. One of the strategies Mark is using for his clients. So if you are a client of Harvested Financial, you also benefited from those big wins last week. So I'm interested to see where VIX ends up on the open today, to see if we will get a trade on King Condor today. We did not have a trade over the weekend, so we're clean slate going into this week. We'll have to see. With futures being down, I would assume VIX is going up, and we'll see in a few minutes where we are at the open. So
we'll see, because futures have rallied since we've been talking. I think my 8:15 mark was down 40, but I only see us down like 17 or 19 at this point. So catching a little bit of a Monday morning bid here, it looks like.
All right, here we go. All right, so what were you gonna say, Dillon?
I'm at this place now where King Condor is my favorite bot. I'm the most confident in it. I don't have to think about it. Like I so badly want another King Condor trade today, but if it doesn't happen, I'm happy with that too, because I know that there's reason for it. So
I know I've said it a million times, but the filter on the King Condor is by far its strongest feature. That's what you need to know when to trade options. Is you need some kind of signal, you need some kind of indicator. You can't just like blindly do things. And all the work we did to bake in the different VIX levels and overnight moves and early morning prints or first candles, like all of those are pretty good filters on when not to trade. So I couldn't agree more with you. I want the King to keep laying them up, but if he wants to step out, then I got to trust him.
Absolutely. The King reigns supreme has kind of become our saying. And this is just some more information for you. If you want to go on over to our website, peakbot.com/strategies, or you can just click on bots here. You can see all the back-tested data from King Condor. And we will very soon be tracking publicly all of the live results. Annoying to get it all together, but we've got it right. We're going to have a huge page with everything all together for you. So you can see the results here. Let's talk about crafting this, specifically about what DTE, what DTEs, plural, we were trying to match this strategy up with. I'm going to hand it off to you guys. I'm going to the bottom section. Here I am.
Cool. Yeah. So previously we've talked about the time of day of the entry, and we saw the impact that time of day had, and then we talked about the width of the spread last time we were live here. So today we're going to talk about days to expiration. Right now, this is a 1 DTE strategy. How does changing the 1 DTE to a 0 DTE or to a 2 DTE impact the trade? We're not going to touch any other settings, and we're going to see what the results look like. So again, here is the King Condor base, and this is the high-level statistics of how the King Condor has done over the past 3 years based on these back tests. By the way, I'm so glad that we got past May 16th because May 16th, 2022 is when dailies became available for SPX. Now we can officially say that these back tests are 3 years old. And it just sounds much better than 2 years, 358 days.
Yep.
So this is the base. This is what we're starting with for King Condor. I think the numbers to keep in mind as we're going through this analysis is the overall P&L, the CAGR, and the max drawdown. So about 25.7K, 53.3%, and a drawdown of 6.7%. So before we get into how DTE affects those results, Mark, I'll pass it off to you to just give us a quick rundown on how changing the days to expiration on your trades. I'm gonna get this zoomed in right here. How that could impact the overall trade. What are the pros and cons to the different days till expiration here?
For sure. So, I'll just set the table briefly by saying that in the big picture of option strategies, these are all distinctly short-term timeframes, right? Like a 2DT trade is still very much a short-term time frame. So if you guys recall the conversation we had with Matt Cashman about the difference between Vega and Gamma and where those Greeks are, with these short-term trades, whether you're talking 0, 1, or 2, we're really slicing pretty finely here the difference between what are all essentially very immediate term opportunity capture gamma type risk profiles that while the vol will contribute in some ways to different prices, and higher vols are going to give us higher prices here, at the end of the day we're talking about movement, and we're talking about movement within at most a 48-hour period. So when I compare the difference between these 0, 1, and 2 DTEs, like I said, it's a pretty fine shading between the difference of at the extreme 0 end, you're all about that movement. It's all about what is the premium that I'm paying right now for where this is going to land at the end of the day. Just anecdotally, one of the things I've seen is that these premiums managed to stay very consistent throughout the day recently. That up until even the final minutes, that a lot of these, short-term options expiring just that same very day are holding a lot of their value. So that is, that short-term premium is fairly persistent in there, and you can get into a very late window trade and still collect some, meaningful premium there. Benefits to that, no overnight risk. We were talking about weekend risk. It's even better to not have a position on from Monday to Tuesday. So, having that in and out, end of day, very defined period, there's a lot to be said for that. With any of these strategies, but particularly if you've got an option expiring in a couple hours, you've got to be on top of it. A 0 DTE trade is not something that you can look at and just walk away, unless you have a bot operating it for you, of course. But generally, the shorter amount of time that you're going to be in there, and if that's measured in hours, you really have to be watching that position. You don't want to step away for that $10,000 burrito. But as we move out the spectrum, you're trading overnight with a 1 DTE or a 2 DTE, we're still seeing that rapid theta decline, right? Like a 1 DTE option, 2 DTE option is still on what I call like the theta cliff, where you grind, and then it just falls away. So we're looking at different sections of that cliff, but 1 DTE is still going to get some pretty decent premium. Some of that overnight premium is also in there, which, we go back and forth. It's very regime dependent, whether moves are happening overnight, whether you want to stay exposed to that. Sometimes overnight premium is where all the returns happen. We have other long periods where nothing happens overnight. So that's kind of an interesting element to start incorporating once you're talking, 1-2 days, once you start getting those overnights in there. What kind of overnight regime are we in right now? And is that, premium that you're collecting worth it? Is that commensurate for the amount of overnight risk that you're taking?
Right.
So obviously overnight risk, anything can happen. Any tweet can come out, any trade war can be launched overnight. So definitely keep an eye on what's been going on. And like we were talking about earlier in the show, is this an environment where I want to have overnight risk, or is this an environment where I want to be flat at the end of the day? I think that's some of the kind of qualitative art that you can layer on into a trade decision. King Condor has a bunch of different indicators, sensitivities that it's paying attention to. But a good trader, and something I watch out for with my clients, is something that's kind of, exogenous on the radar here. And you don't want to step in too much, but, you also can't ignore something that shows up on the president's golf schedule, for example. As we move further out the spectrum, 2DTs, very similar. We've got now 2 overnight windows, a slightly longer time. As you have longer into expiration, that decay in those first periods is going to be much slower. You're not, even if the market's moving, you're not going to see as big of a P&L move. But again, this is still a gamma trade. We're not trading a 30-day covered call here. We're very much expecting something to materialize or not within that next, 48 hours. As you get to longer duration trades, I don't know if 2DT is exactly where you'd start doing it, but it does present the opportunity to roll a trade. We're starting to get into a time where, if you see a move early on and it's a decisive move, it's got some fundamental backing, there is still going to be enough premium that has not decayed in that to make it worth, potentially an adjustment, potentially a roll. Typically at that shorter end, 0DTE is not something you want to roll. You're going to get chopped up this way and that. That's kind of a one coin flip event. But as we get longer, adjustments can become more reasonable. I guess to wrap that up, these are all very short-term trades, depending on what the environment is, depending on, what pricing looks like, just your spidey sense about the market and, some of the levels, you might want to shade that between, 0 to 2 DTE.
Yep. And it's really interesting to, the difference between 0DT and 2DT to somebody that usually trades longer term options, to them it all feels the same, but for us at least, trading a 0DT versus a 2DT is a world of difference. Because we're just
2DT feels like a leap if you're trading the King Condor all the time.
That's right. By the way, side note here, the VIX Open just came in a couple minutes ago. It looks like the King Condor will not be placing a trade today. VIX gapped up overnight or over the weekend about $1. So that's a bit too much for our liking, or for the bot's liking rather. And as such, no trade today.
We'll live with it.
Yeah, we'll live with
fine.
it. Get back in the saddle tomorrow and see what's going on.
I didn't have to make that decision. I didn't have to think about that. That's my favorite part. Okay.
Yeah. So let's get into how these different days to expiration affect this strategy. So we're going to take a look at 1 DTE versus 0 DTE. Again, we've got our baseline here. We've got the 25.7, 53, call it 7% drawdown. Nice looking chart. Now, when we change nothing but the days till expiration, big impact on the overall strategy. Take a look at how much P&L dropped. Kager, of course, dropped as a result. The drawdown is much higher. And again, the only thing that we changed was the DTE. So the time of entry is in the afternoon, as we saw in one of the first sessions here. So it's around 3 o'clock, 3 to 3:30 that the King Condor will enter a position. So this is assuming this is still entering at 3 to 3:30, but it's a 0 DTE trade. So realistically, this is a less than 1 hour trade here. And you can see the average winner is $85. So we're basically betting by changing this from 1 DTE to 0 DTE, we're basically betting that in the last hour of the market, we're not going to move beyond wherever those deltas are set. And the deltas for King Condor are set at the 20 delta. So we're betting that the price of SPX is not going to move beyond those 20 deltas, which is, as you can see here, a risky proposition and not exactly the equity curve that we want to get behind, especially for PeakBot as bot providers. This is not a bot that we want to put out to the public for use. And Mark, of course, you would never want your clients to see an equity curve like the one that we have on the screen here.
Absolutely.
It's amazing what a little bit of difference is. And, the way I kind of think about that qualitatively is that it's, the premium in those 0 DTEs, it's fairly variable, and it's, doing short-term transactions, like you're not getting that, vol risk premium that we like to see in short-term options. You're really just, making coin flips based on movement. And, while that has positive, indications sometimes, it can streak the other way. So I don't think we're seeing the premium at that 0 level commensurate with the transaction costs and ability to structure a trade around it. That you really need something a little bit longer with a little bit more juice to justify, executing that short vol transaction.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I was tempted to, but I decided to stick to the rules of how we're running these things. I was tempted to change the entry time to like 10 a.m. to see how that would have impacted the 0 DTE chart. I didn't, but it would be interesting maybe one day to go back and do that. But anyways, if we change this from 1 DTE to 2 DTE, so we're giving ourselves a couple of days, the curve doesn't look that bad compared to the 1 DTE curve, right? Obviously, we prefer this smoother looking curve here, but this overall equity curve does not look that bad. But when we zoom into the numbers, now remember, P&L for 1 DTE was about 25.7, carrier was about 53, drawdown was about 6.7. So we do see a drop in those numbers. Let me just make that a little bit easier to read. We do see a little bit of a drop in these numbers. However, I wouldn't necessarily call this a bad strategy. I think there are better strategies, but this isn't terrible. I don't hate it.
Just a couple. I can just see a couple annoying emails coming through on some of these drawdowns. Just a couple traders just like, what the hell happened? Not much happening with the 1DT. This is incredible to look at. I think, any traders who are watching this who have an interest, building a strategy, back testing it, and what are we? This is Option Omega, right? Fantastic platform to do this. What has Mark got? The market changes over time. With all the volatility lately, the 0 DTE does better. In a normal world, the 2 DTE might do better. Well, we landed right in the middle.
What's normal anymore, Doug?
What is normal? Nothing's normal. No, but good point. I
very much. I mean, that's sort of what I was alluding to with the movements overnight, right? That sometimes the overnight sessions are silent and sometimes they're really active, and like that ebbs and flows based on different regimes. And at the end of the day, when I'm looking at these and comparing them, I think it's definitely worth honing in on the one that looks the best, but also knowing that the market's uncertain, and the fact that the 2 DTE curve has a similar upward trajectory and the 0 DTE is slightly different, but I know my experience is going to be somewhere between these two. You can't necessarily always say one parameter is always going to be perfectly right forever, but seeing the difference between 1 and 2 and knowing that that's my period of target strategy capture, seeing them similar, I think is a good justification, is a good test of robustness, call it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let me ask a question, Ben. When we're looking at these results, the criteria that we take into consideration for entry or no entry, is that built in here? Are we seeing that, or is this just okay? I just wanted to know if this was just assuming trading every day. But no, you're taking into consideration the VIX movement.
Oh yeah. The only thing that I changed between these two tests were the DTE. So in the settings, you can set it to go 0. You could set it whatever DTE you want, honestly.
Yep.
But yeah, that's the only thing that I changed.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so 2DT, not bad, just not preferable.
No, I mean, I could almost, if I was to try and draw a line right now, it'd look like that. If I was to just draw a straight line, I mean, I got shaky hands, but yeah, that's pretty fun to look at right there. So just so people know, starting capital here is $10,000. Okay, on this back test, what do we end at there? Close to 35,000, almost 36,000. Going back to, you said May of 2023 when the dailies started here. So
2022,
sorry. So yeah, okay. What else do we want to discuss on this topic, if anything?
I think, again, remember, we're going to continue to go through all of the different parameters that we've built into the King Condor strategy. Mark said it a couple minutes ago that looking at the 2DT versus 1DT, good test for robustness. I think that what we're doing here also shows like the robustness, not just this week, but every week shows the robustness of the strategies that we are building and that we are providing to our subscribers and to Mark's clients, because we do take, we go through a lot of rigorous tests before a strategy actually makes its way to the public. That's why we only have a few available right now, and we're working on more. We will get more. But
one other thing to mention here, Ben, I think we're looking at this, if anybody's taking a look at the win rate and seeing that that's higher than what we see on the website, which is, backtest results around 54, 56%. Ben, is this leg specific here that we're looking at?
It is because each leg has a separate stop.
Yep.
And we'll get into that in future weeks, what those stops are for each leg. But yeah, each leg has a different stop. And as a result of that, the way that this software works, it tracks each leg individually, not the entire condor as a whole. When you track the entire condor as a whole, I think the win rate is closer to like 56%.
Yep.
But then you also have to keep in mind that the average winner is going to be double this, and then the average loser is going to actually be this number minus a winner, right?
Yep.
So it actually comes out to the average winner is about $300, a little over $300, and the average loser is right around $200, and you're winning about half of the time. So when you math that out, that's how we get to this beautiful looking curve.
Nicely done. So it's no secret that that King Condor is our favorite bot right now. It's certainly my favorite bot. Sorry, Wheel. Old news, Wheel. But yeah, with the offense and defense that's built into this bot, the speed at which it can trade, the entry time, everything seems to be primed up. But know this also, like any algo provider, any advisor, any strategy has a shelf life. Okay, we've adjusted this strategy. We'll continue to adjust it as needed to meet new market conditions. So King Condor, if you want to get started, head on over to PeakBot.com. But I think you're better off having Mark manage this for you. And that's not an insult to you. That is a compliment to Mark. So if you want to do that, head on over to PeakBot.com/harvested and have King Condor part of your automated portfolio, handled completely hands-free by the professionals. So there's not a better time to get into it. It's now almost $700 in profit last week with a 33% ROI. So, Mark, any other thoughts or questions on King Condor before we move into anything else?
No, I love seeing how it's been performing, and you've been keeping it relatively conservative, but still really delivering results and a texture of results that I've been really happy with. So I'm excited to continue moving forward with this.
Excellent. So, gentlemen, is there anything else? I know we got 15 minutes to the bell here. Ben, why don't you just show us if you have any economic events coming up that are going to rock the boat this week?
Okay, let's take a look at what we've got going. Let me zoom in a little bit more.
Full week, yes. Okay, full week. No,
we've got
no
a full week. There we go, much better. All right, looking forward to today. High impact per trading view, ISM manufacturing, PMI. Nothing at all for this going on this afternoon. Looking into tomorrow, which I'm okay with King Condor not trading, because I don't really like trading through Jolt's job openings. That could rock the boat for sure. But then looking at the rest of the day, not too much going on. Wednesday, I don't remember much going on Wednesday. There's a lot of events, it seems, but nothing too crazy. Thursday, yeah, nothing really sticking out on Thursday. And then Friday, non-farm payrolls, that could have a slight impact on employment. TBD on if we want to sit out for those, and hey, maybe the King decides to sit out on its own. You don't know. Yeah, so I mean, nothing overly impactful this week, just a couple of events on Friday and what was that? Tomorrow. So Tuesday and Friday that I would potentially look out for. But again, not financial advice, just personal preference, and some of these, yes, are built into the bots. Great question coming in. What backtesting software do you use to test your models before you go live? We have a variety of softwares that we use, and a process of our own using some of our own data. But we'll usually start with Option Omega. They're a great product. Also partnered with Tradier. And we'll start there. Sometimes we use Option Alpha. Again, another great product. Those are great products if you like to kind of build your own strategies and go through the process of making your own bot. And believe me, you could spend hours on there. I've logged hundreds of hours on those sites. But then from there, because these out-of-the-box type softwares are limited to some capacity, I'll export that data and then I'll run it through a series of checks honestly in a Google Sheet. So I'll check different dates, I'll check for different patterns using some scripts that we've built. And so it's a combination of a lot of those things. And then once we do go live, we'll watch that strategy trade live. And because as we know, when you're back testing, everything is perfectly fine and conditions are perfect. But when you're actually trading those strategies, it might not be all it was cracked up to be in a back test. To cap off what we do for testing, we'll start with the software, then we'll move into a Google Sheet and run some scripts, and then we'll start testing it live internally, and then we'll run a beta test with multiple live users. And then if that beta test goes well, we will then go ahead and push it out into the wild.
So while this is all happening, I don't know if did we show this comment? How it's, I mean, we've been using the silverback gorilla, the King Kong, as kind of our thing here. I don't know if I've ever put the two together, King Condor. Now, what I've been doing is asking GPT to create an image of King Kong on top of the Empire State Building holding a wad of cash to represent, the bot making a ton of money. Yeah. I'm getting a fun one right now. It's loaded. This one, I should have asked it for a bit more of reality here. Okay, yeah. Oh, this is pretty good. Okay. Can we see? Let's get this up here. Nope. This. Okay. I think the placement is a little tough for King there. I think he should be straddled elsewhere. But
I want to see. Can you ask GPT to make an image of King Kong riding a condor, holding money?
Okay, make an image of King Kong riding a condor bird. What was the last part?
Holding cash.
While holding bags of cash.
You said it, Doug.
That looks uncomfortable. Yeah. I didn't ask him to do that. GPT had a hidden agenda here. I don't know why he'd do that. By the way, look how much better it's getting with text.
Yeah, it's so much better.
We could never get it to do this 6 months ago. All right, let's just see if it.
All right, this will be it. Then we've got to wrap. We've got to get moving here.
All right. We're waiting on it. Okay, we don't have to wait. I can check socials if you want to see it. I think the first one was pretty good. I don't even actually know what a condor bird looks like. I would imagine it's not a pretty one. It doesn't have a pretty name. We don't have to wait for this. But anyway, if it comes up in the next minute, I'll share it. So, trying to think of anything else here. PeakBot.com/harvested if you want a professionally managed portfolio with King Condor and other great option selling bots. It's loading. It's going to be pretty good. Might be worth the wait. Free PeakBot. If you go head on over to PeakBot.com/Tradier with a new Tradier account funded with $5,000 or more, if you're thinking that you want to do this yourself. I think that's it. We're not going to get this fully loaded image. Let's blame GPT. Let's blame my slow internet, but we're going to get half of it here. I can at least see what it's going for. We're getting there. Oh, okay. All right. That's a condor. That's pretty good.
Okay.
I can live with that. That can get posted on our socials. By the way, it said a blue pinstripe and sunglasses makes it feel more like trader, more Wall Street. So, Mark, was this you back in the day? Were you rocking the blue pinstripe and sunglasses?
I do have a nice blue pinstripe and that gangster stripe.
There you go.
A little more 80s though, I'd say.
Okay. All right. Fair. Yeah, it is, especially this undershirt here. But all right, if this isn't posted on our socials, somebody yell at us. Guys and gals, thank you so much for tuning in. Hope you have a great week ahead of you. Hoping for some warmer weather here in New Jersey or the Northeast. And we'll be back Friday at 11:55 a.m. Eastern. I'm getting the music to wrap up. Thank you so much. And as always, we'll see you at the peak. Take care, everybody.
You know how the financial world goes. Here comes the buzzkill. Please make sure to take some time to read this boring disclaimer. We will owe you one.